Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
All right, this 5 o'clock hour, it's been a day with so much yet again with college football and landscape, and Mac Rhodes, who joined us earlier. That content is up in the premium section, also the replay of YouTube, and we appreciate all of you in the chat room, text line, and much more. John McClain, Houston Chronicle. John, there's going to finally be a Hall of Fame induction. How are they going to try to break this down where it doesn't last like for about 20 hours?
They've got, they put time limits. They always put time limits, but people always go over the time limit. They've tried doing music like the Academy Awards. They've tried doing everything except putting a hook out there to bring them off. And what they're talking about now is going to a commercial. Well, some of those guys like Ray Lewis, if you go 10 commercials, he'll still be talking. But, you can't make them do it. You talk about people who got their hands full. They're doing 2 classes. Then in September, next month, they're doing another one for the Centennial class we voted on last year. So I'll tell you, some really tired people in Canton, Ohio, when all that is over. But it's a good tired because it's a great time of the year.
Yeah, John, I just having gone a couple of years ago, knowing that Jerry Jones wasn't going to just do 10 minutes. Like, I knew that wasn't going to happen. He didn't ramble on too long, but it's just not going to happen. And what do you say to a guy who this is the biggest moment of his life? Like, hey, do 5.
I have never had a problem with people going on because, Paul, as you mentioned, it is the greatest moment of their life. I know how much it meant to Jerry Jones to get in there. I was ecstatic. I remember I was at the Texans training camp in West Virginia at the Greenbrier watching while I was writing a story, and I heard him throw my name out there, and I'm like, whoa. And then my cell lit up with people texting me, Cowboy fans. And so I am for letting them go as long as they want. I have no problem with it. I never have. And but a lot of people do, and I think it's too bad. And because it is a monumental moment. And really, other than the Super Bowl, the best time of the year for the NFL, because people are being immortalized.
John, who are you most excited to see this weekend get that immortality and that gold jacket?
Oh, Craig, I don't have one that, I do too. Drew Pearson. I'm on the seniors committee, and I was on the Centennial committee, and I thought, sure, Drew Pearson was going to get in. Instead, we voted in Cliff Harris, and I thought Cliff Harris deserved it too. But when Drew made it, I was so happy for him because it meant so much to him, and he was so classy about it. He didn't say, like some of them will say, well, it's about time, or I thought I would have gone in. He handled it with so much class and dignity because that's who Drew Pearson is, and so he's the one I'm the most excited about.
Do you feel like his emotions when he did not get in, did that sway any voters the next time around?
No, nobody pays any attention to that. I felt terrible for him. He had the media over at his house, and that was his Centennial class.
Oh,
and
it was horrible.
Thought for sure he was going to get in, and I felt awful. But that never comes up when we're talking about the finalists. And the thing is, we don't ever say, never ever do we say, well, I don't think Drew Pearson deserves it. It's never that. It's always somebody else deserves it more at that time. And Drew got bypassed for so many years. That's why when I'm being on the seniors committee is almost better than being on the selection committee and the coaches committee and the Centennial committee, because they have waited so long. Their modern eligibility is up, and it means so much more to them. The longer you go, the more it means. When you're a first ballot guy like Peyton Manning, of course, it's important to Peyton. It's a big deal. But he knew he was going in on the first ballot. But now you got Drew Pearson there. I can't wait to hear his speech. I saw him here at an event last month, and I told him, I said, you're going to have to come up with something really special to top your speech in the draft at Philadelphia.
I'm sure he's got something in the barrel that's going to be great. I'm very curious about Jimmy Johnson and how Jerry Jones has waxed a little bit rhapsodic about Jimmy. I mean, he stopped short of sometimes saying what you really want him to say, but at the press conference a couple weeks ago, he said he effed it up. I mean, like those his exact words. So I'm curious to see what Jimmy's reaction to a lot of that stuff is and how he looks back on it.
The thing that I thought was so emotional was the way they told him and Bill Cowher, both of whom are on pregame shows, that they'd made the Hall of Fame. And both of them cried, especially Jimmy. I thought that was just so humbling to watch Jimmy Johnson, a guy who could be a jerk and a half when he was coaching his players, and for him to get in the Hall of Fame. I sat with Jimmy at a Wade Phillips roast in Port Arthur about 5 years ago, and I sat next to him, and I told him I thought he would get in. He told me he thought he didn't coach long enough. I disagreed because of what he did. You think if Jimmy had stayed there, and this is why Jerry, there's a good chance he's never going to win another Super Bowl. And he knows had he kept Jimmy, with Barry Switzer winning one with Jimmy's players, even though free agency would have wreaked havoc on that franchise, with Jimmy Johnson there in control, they might have won 2, 3 more, been right up there with the Patriots and the Steelers. So Jerry knows that. Jimmy's always known that. But and I'll tell you, Jimmy will be as humble can be, as most of them are.
So, John, what is the latest from Texans camp? What is the buzz or lack thereof? I know there was some talk about Deshaun Watson not being around today, but what's kind of stood out to you from these last few days?
Well, I'm writing a column for tomorrow, and I did a video that's on our sports website, TexasSportsNation.com, and I just ripped the heck out of Texans because they, I tell them, I say they treat the fans and the media like we're the Three Stooges, with 2 fingers in the eye and a slap on the back of the head and a whack under the chin, instead of giving us a reasonable explanation of why he wasn't there. Like, he came, he said he was hurt, he left, we'll see if he's back tomorrow. That's fine. Instead of forcing David Culley to get up there and say, well, as I said before, we're day-to-day with it. The only thing that's changed for the standpoint is we make decisions every day based on what's best for our football team, and I'm going to leave it at that. That's no explanation. And, we're not looking for the formula for Coke or state secrets. We're looking for a reasonable explanation. And the problem is they got people from New England running the franchise. It's the Patriot way. The media just sits there and rips them constantly during practice, and they're alienating the fan base. And I looked around. I didn't see Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. When you're competing for Super Bowls every year, you can alienate a fan base because they're going to lap up your tickets anyway and everything you're selling. And we're talking about here a team that may have the worst record in the league and is in danger of not selling out games for the first time in franchise history.
John, nothing really comes out of what happened yesterday in Austin with the state Senate hearings, but obviously there are some one-liners, some pokes and jabs, and some zingers. Did you hear what your AD at Baylor, Mac Rhodes, had to say?
What did Mac say?
Paul?
Well, he said that the opening line was, I feel, and correct me if I stray too far, Craig, but
talking to colleagues around the country, that Texas people believe that they're too big or they're so big. They think too highly of themselves.
But he believes they actually think too little of themselves. And,
all I know is, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it pretty much, came out with something we know that when the kind of phony expansion talks were going on a few years ago, Texas and OU put the kibosh on it. They didn't want it. Bob Bowles used the term tiptoe around Texas and OU because of TV deals and all these other things. So it was some very damning statements made towards Texas and OU, particularly Texas.
Well, of course, and the fact is Texas always looked down at the SEC, like the Longhorns were above the SEC, more of the Big Ten type. And if they want to do that in Oklahoma's fine, go. But if you're a Longhorn, I've had a lot of my Longhorn friends act like they're going to win. And I'm thinking, if you can't dominate the Big 12, what in the world are you going to do in the SEC? As high as A&M's ranked the last 2 years, they haven't even won their division, much less the conference. And yes, you're going to make money, and we all know the Longhorns need more money. But if you're going to be 4-8 or 5-7 or get some bad ball because you moved to the SEC, there comes a time when you might wish you were back. If A&M had stayed in the Big 12, A&M might have won it the last couple of years. So it's good for them, and I want to know, only thing I care about, I don't care about the Sooners and Longhorns anymore. They're gone. I want to know what's going to happen to Baylor, what's going to happen to the Big 12. I'd love to see Baylor get absorbed into the Eastern Division of a Pac-16. I think that'd be great. Even if they got BYU or Cincinnati or whoever they're talking about to come into the Big 12, I know this, it'd be a tougher basketball conference because the Longhorns and Sooners didn't do anything big in basketball that would threaten those national champion fighting Baylor Bears. But anyway, as I told SEC people, talk shows and friends, beware of the Longhorns. You never know what you're going to get. They're going to come try to tell you what to do, like they've always told SEC in the Big 12 what to do.
John, this might be commonplace, but have you ever seen a player getting waived during training camp after an unacceptable hit, like what happened with the Panthers today?
Well, I think if that guy had been a good player,
okay.
It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, there you go.
You're setting an example, and the best example I've ever seen. And I know it's an old story. John Roper, rookie linebacker from A&M, fell asleep in a meeting, and Jimmy Johnson cut him the next day. And the media asked him, "What would you have done if it was Emmett?" He said, "I would have turned down the lights, got him a pillow, and told everybody keep it down."
Exactly.
So you can cut players like that, but you don't cut to Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, Kirvin Richards, I think, might have been the guilty party at that moment you were talking about. John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you as always.
Guys, thank you very much. SicEm.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Houston Chronicle. He mentioned